Hi, this is Carrie Hummingbird, and welcome to Soul Nectar show that talks about all things essence and how we take that journey into our discovery of what we're really here to do, what our soul purpose is, and we make that journey from what we were doing before to, the spiritually aligned life. And we do it by telling stories because that is the fastest path I know into this subject. And with every person that comes on this show, we have interesting conversations that explore this topic in new ways that are unexpected, and it can be a lot of fun. So today we have another fun guest, Karen Swain. Welcome, Karen.
Hi, Carrie. Thanks for having me on your fabulous show.
Thanks for being here.
You'll be on my show next.
Yeah. So she's an author and inspirational speaker, which is, of course, I like to be inspired. So that's why she's on the show. She's a spiritual mentor, educator, and guide, a radio podcast host on the ATP media. She's a filmmaker and a difference maker. I love that, difference maker. She enlightens you to the power of your thoughts and beliefs, how they create your world, and how to live in alignment with your emotional guidance system. So I love that emotional guidance system. Oh, so important.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Well, okay. So I know that's got to be part of your story, right? So tell us tell us some awakening experience that got you going on this path to do what you do today.
It's interesting when you say awakening experience. I have so many people on my show who have these spiritually transformative experiences like an NDE or an illness or, when bang, something happens to them. But that did not happen to me. I've had many spiritually transformative experiences, but the journey started as a curious child. Like, why? But why, Mum? But why, Dad? Why? Like,
you were that one.
Why are babies born and they have to be baptized? I don't get that. How could they be born in sin? That doesn't make sense to me. And my parents, not religious at all spiritual in any way, shape or form, just trying to battle life and not doing very well at it. We're just like, oh, I don't know. Go ask your father. Go ask your mother. I don't know. Don't bother me. Don't bother me. But of course, the questions got even greater when Mum gets sick of cancer. I'm actually this selfish little teenager. I'm about 12 when she gets sick, and then she gets progressively worse. It took her about 4 years to die. So I'm about 16 when she eventually left her body, and the questions got even more intense. Like, so why do people get sick, and where do we go when we die? And if we go somewhere, we must have come from somewhere before we got here. And so these questions just put me on that path, like, who are we? What are we doing here? What is this place? And it, and I'm still curious about all of it. So here I am, mid-50s, and I'm still asking questions. And like you, I'm asking questions in my show. Like, I just never cease asking questions. But there was a time where I was going to gurus and psychics and healers and sages asking questions, and they were all telling me to stop asking the questions. Because, that mind, that little mind of ours, that curious little mind of ours gets in the way of receiving the answers. Because really the answers that we're all looking for are in us, right? They're inside us. They're inside our heart. They're in the connection to our inner being. They're in the connection to our higher self. They're in the connection to our guides. They're in connection to the universe. So at some point, we have to stop asking the questions to get connected. And then once we're connected, like, that's the work. Like, that is the work. Once we're connected, then we've got the answers. But it doesn't mean you can't stop asking the questions. It's just that when you ask the questions, you have to be outside of the vibration of the question. So you ask a question like, instead of, I need to know, or I want to know, it's like, wouldn't it be interesting? That'd be interesting. Yeah, I'd like to know that. So there's no resistance attached to the asking of the question. And when there's no resistance attached, then the answers come straight away, bang. So I've just taken you on this major
rabbit hole. What's so fascinating is that, there's a key step that a lot of people miss when they're asking lots of questions. Listening.
Listening.
It's a key step. It's important.
Yeah.
But we don't know how to listen. I think that's what I'm learning as I do my work. I'm working on my Reinvent Yourself program. And as part of that program, I'm teaching people how to listen, because I had to learn how to listen. because I had a very busy mind.
Yeah.
It was like a chattering monkey. Like it would just all the time. It would never shut up. And I would go like, and I have lots of energy. So chattering mind and me with lots of energy, like I was on
Yeah.
fire everywhere I went. You know, people
Yeah.
were like exhausted after they saw me. So I have lots of questions. I'd be like, wow. And then I would have convictions. But where were the convictions
Yeah.
on? My chattering mind, you know? So I had to learn how to get quiet and I had to learn how to listen in a whole new way. So I know that this is some of the work that you do as well with people is, you know, help them tune in, right? And help them find out.
Absolutely. You know, here's the thing. Here's the thing. The people I speak with today talk about all sorts of things like ET contact and other dimensions and other planets and life after death and all this fabulous out there stuff. And I love all that. But my guides kept me really focused for a good 20 years on deliberate creation. So that's what I say. I'm a teacher of deliberate creation because, you know, knowing about, like, having information about who we are and where we come from and other planets and other solar systems, and even, you know, knowing about the chakras and knowing how to do yoga poses and even having techniques of yoga doesn't or meditation doesn't actually help you flow your own energy, right? It doesn't actually help you be the genius deliberate creator we came to be, because we, over the centuries, millennia, or I wouldn't say millennia, but over the last few thousand years, have not been told about how powerful we are and how we flow our energy and how that attracts. So for a good 20 years, they had me really focused on that, on how to flow your energy. And all this story, this conversation about listening and asking the questions and then letting go of the need to know and then being in the place of allowing the answers to come is all part of being a deliberate creator, because we're asking questions all the time. Like, we're saying, how can I, you know, fall in love, or how can I get richer, or how can I get thinner, or how can I get more enlightened, or how can I connect to my spirit guides, or how can I save the planet, or how can I be a part of the ascension, or part of this. You know, we're asking questions on a personal and cosmic level all the time, all the time, all the time. And the answers are all inside us. The answers are all there. They're there. If you're asking the question, then you've got the answer inside you. And I was saying to my little tribe the other day, you know, once you remember or discover your answers, then it is your responsibility to share that with others, or at least to share that process with others. Because I believe that there's not a being on this planet right now that's not waking up to who they are and how they flow their energy, and who they are as genius deliberate creators, who they are as connected to the God source, who they are as one with all of humanity and all of life and all of the cosmos. There's not one person that's not going to wake up to that. There's not one. I mean, there's like the woo-woo crowd, yay, and then the mainstream crowd, right? And I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been part of the woo-woo crowd for a long time. And there's been this real separation between them and us, them and us. There's not one person on this planet that doesn't want to know how to feel good. There's not one person that doesn't want to know how to feel good. And that's the question so many people are asking. How do I get over depression? How do I feel more loved? How do I feel more connected? You know, like, these are questions that everybody is asking. So deliberate creation addresses that. And this emotional guidance system that we talk about is to understand that our feelings...
system, you are server.
Oh, sorry.
My battery.
My computer's running out now. This emotional guidance system that we have is not there to torture us. Like, our emotions aren't there to torture us. And I see, like, I was one of them. You were one of them, right? We all get tortured by our emotions. We're like, depression, and I want to kill myself. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to kill myself. I've even attempted it a few times.
I thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. When I was a teenager, like, not figuring out, you know, mom and dad, they're hating each other, they're divorced at this stage. Dad's beating me up. He's getting divorced from his second wife. I'm just this pawn in this war. And I'm like, damn, this life's just too hard. I'm out of here. And I walked to our harbour bridge. We've got this beautiful big bridge over the city called the Harbour Bridge, right? I thought, I go jump off the harbour bridge. I don't know, dramatic, but if you jump off the harbour bridge, you don't survive. But I walked there. It was like about 5 kilometers from my house, which I don't know how many miles, but a few miles. And when I got there, I realized I had these big fences up that you couldn't jump off the bridge. Too many people in the past had jumped off the bridge. So I thought, that didn't go. But anyway, what I'm saying is there's not one person that wants to know how to turn a negative thought or a negative feeling into a better feeling. And that's what deliberate creation is all about. And it's about knowing that our emotions are our guidance system. When you
Yeah, I
feel,
love that. It's so
when
true.
you, yeah, when you feel bad, it's your guidance system saying that what you're thinking is just not true. Not only is it not true about who you are, it's not true about what you say you want. So you might launch a rocket of desire, as Esther Hicks from the Abraham teaching says, when we feel bad, we launch these rockets, shoot out of us, bang, 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 bang. Like, I want this, I want to do this, I want to feel this. And when you entertain a thought that is in direct opposition from what you say that you want, you're going to feel the discord in the vibrational matching frequency of energy as negative emotion. That's what negative emotion is. It's us feeling that discord. And so our emotions are there to serve us, just like pain is there to serve us. Little friends come to say hello. Hello.
Hello.
Just like, like when you burn yourself on the stove, the pain tells you, get your hand off the stove, right? It's your guidance system saying, don't do this. And our emotions are the same. So,
I've realized the same thing about shame. Like if you actually just tune into the feeling, the body sensation of shame,
yeah.
it's a dropping. It's like a sinking in feeling. And what is that? It's sinking into truth. It's like, oh, I was out of truth. But
Yeah.
what happens is that then we have this dogma and domestication that then says when you have that feeling, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I was like, no, you should be aware of yourself. When you
Yeah.
have that feeling, you should be aware, because that means you're dropping back into truth. You were out of truth, and something you did or something you said was out of alignment with truth. And then you had the awareness because you dropped back in that sinking feeling. And then okay, it's time to get back in truth. I've got to change something because what I was doing wasn't aligned. So it's not, it's not like the domestication is all kind of wrong, because what it does is then it traps you in that place of like, I need to like flog myself. It's like, no, you don't need
Yeah.
to flog yourself. You
Yeah.
just need to admit it, recognize it, go, oh, okay. And then use that guidance system to get you back on course. It's like, what do I need to do to get back in alignment
Totally.
with truth? That's all it is. It's a redirection, but we've made it into something else, throughout these thousands of years. That's not helpful.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really interesting when you say, I've got to change something. The only thing we need to change, like, we don't need to change what we're doing, or even like what we normally do when things don't work out. Like, my husband and I are fighting. I leave, I get another husband. I don't like where I live. I leave, I get another house. I don't like my job. I leave. So we change things. But all we need to do is change what we believe, is to change what we think. And that's actually simpler than finding another husband or another house or another job. It's actually much simpler. But the universe aligns with your new belief. It's so brilliant how this works, right? So say you're in a bad relationship, let's say a bad relationship, and you're having all these negative thoughts about who your partner is, or who you are. Like, it could be bad, like, I'm a failure, or could be you're a failure, whatever. If you change that thought to, what if all this was perfect? Like, what if I was learning so much from this relationship, learning about who I am, and learning about unconditional love, and learning how to serve? And what if you changed your thinking to a more positive, more enlightened view on who you are, and what this situation is doing for you? Like, what if you accentuated the positive inside this situation? And then watch life align or orchestrate the details around your new vibe, your new vibration. Like, I did this with a client. She was on Skype with me for ages, saying how she hated her job. She was very ambitious. It was before, what she really wanted was to get married. But anyway, she was young at this stage, and she wanted a better job, and she wanted to earn better money, and she wanted better circumstances and all that stuff. And we shifted her focus in her current job to I hate this and I hate my boss and this is such a crap job and I get paid nothing, to what's great about it. And she went to work the next day and she was walking through the factory. She worked in a factory and she was saying, actually, I really like the people I work with. Actually, it's not a bad place. It's close to home. She started accentuating the product. She started to see her now moment through new eyes. And you know what, Kerry? Within like 48 hours, she was offered the dream job. It just happens so quickly when she aligned her energy. So that's why I say my guides kept me on in focus for like 20 years, learning how to flow your energy, learning deliberate creation, learning how to shift our focus, because we have the ability to change our thoughts, to change our thinking. You know, like,
Yeah, I like how you say, I feel like I've been in the master's class on chattering mind and not believing what you think and even
yeah,
not believing what you feel in some ways because
yeah, yeah,
it's like what I've realized, and I just want to say, like, I only really became aware of all of this stuff like 6 years ago because
right.
I had like that, devastating, on the floor, eat, pray, love moment with God, like, please help me, like this is awful. And I haven't found any spiritual path yet. And I need one. And my ex-husband, my husband is going to be my ex-husband, and he was. I only learned about this recently, but it's been a crash course and it's intense.
Yeah,
But what I realize now is that, as you pour that water in, as you change the contents of your cup. So you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to pour some Abraham Hicks into my cup. I'm going to pour some, I'm going to pour some of these thought leaders into my cup, and this high vibration music. Even I'm going to pour that into my
yep.
cup, and I'm going to get energy healing and pour that into my cup. And I'm going to, as you do that, you're putting the clean, clear water in your cup. Like we're in the ascension process right now, right?
Totally.
So we're
Yeah,
all getting, whether we want it or not, we're all getting clean water poured into our cups.
totally.
And
Totally.
that
But
sounds
like,
fabulous. But what's happening is that it's stirring up the shit.
absolutely. Absolutely. This is what I say. It's like the light is getting, like when you're in a dark room, I can, like, remember when we were young and we went to discos and we looked so great. And then in the morning when the light came, you looked and you're, like
That is such a great metaphor.
when you turn up the light, you get to see all the cracks, the wrinkles. You get to see the smudged makeup. You get to see the dirt in the corners of the house. You get to see what's out of alignment. And that's where we're going. That's what's happening right now.
People
The
are
light.
like, how can this be the alignment? They're like, how can this be ascension? This feels horrible. And I said,
Yeah.
listen. So I started opening the spirit, like, okay, tell us the answer to that. And what I got was, as you're pouring as spirit now and the universe, because of all the astrological implications, are pouring that ascension into our cups, it's jogging loose the stuff that doesn't fit that model anymore.
Totally.
And that stuff is putrid. It's been around for thousands of years. It's nasty. It's way down your lineage, like all your ancestors operated in this low vibration way. That's getting jogged loose out of your DNA. So all your little DNA or little cells are like going poof, like a little cloud of poof, hoocha, poof, like all throughout your whole being. And for like a day, you could be in it so intensely that you're like, why am I so mean? Why am I thinking all these horrible thoughts? Why am I feeling so horrible? You could really be in it for a day or 2 or 3 or a month, who long. If you're not aware that that's happening, you could really think that that's true and be making life decisions based on that. Meanwhile, if you can realize, oh, that's just stuff that's getting loosened up from my DNA that's super old. And as it comes out of my cup, I get to witness it. And then it's going to come out. There's a brand new day on the other side of that.
Totally.
And I go back to the truth, a bigger truth.
The truth of who I am. What's really interesting, Kerry, is that we get imprinted with ideas of who we think we are. Like we get imprinted. We get imprinted by our parents. We get imprinted by society. I was having this really deep and meaningful conversation with my daughter the other day. She never listens to any of my podcasts. She'd hate to know I talk about her all the time. But anyway. So rather than talking about my clients, I talk
You
about her.
never know who's listening.
Permission. Anyway, yeah, exactly. So, so she was having a bit of a crisis. You know, she's like in her mid-20s. She's been doing the crisis that I went through in my mid-20s. And, you know, as much as I'm her mother, I'm not her teacher. I just have to let her go through it, because those crises, like your crisis, like my crisis, they teach us who we are not. And then they give us that choice of who we want to be, right? So she's been going through some crises, and she was having a bit of a crisis the other day, and she was crying and wailing and carrying on. And she cannot let me teach her, because it's like, don't tell me what to do is her dominant thought form. Because I'm mum.
Of course. She's your
Of
daughter.
course. Exactly. So I got in there somehow. I don't know how. I just like asked my guides, how do I speak to her that she doesn't like tell me, shut me down and say, don't tell me what to do. And the dominant thought form was, I said, so how are you feeling? She said, I'm a failure. I'm a failure. And I said, I was going to launch into, is that true? You know, and then it just dawned on me that there's nothing about her that's a failure. And as a mother, and this is what mothers do, you tell your children they're brilliant all the time, right? You uphold their brilliance. You don't ever tell them they're a failure. You tell them that they're great at everything, even when they're not. So I'm thinking, where the hell did that come from? And it's been totally imprinted on her by her dad, whose father told him he was a failure. Or maybe not in those words, but just, you know, you can't do anything right. You're always late. What's wrong with you? You're an idiot. You know, these things that angry people say. And so she's had this I'm a failure imprinted on her, and nothing she's done in her life has been a failure. So I just asked her, what if this idea that you believe to be yours and you believe to be true is actually not even yours? It's not even your idea. It's not even anything that you've lived to come up with this idea. It's just you're just carrying around your dad's stuff. Like, how easy would that be to let that go? And she just was like, oh, kind of knocked her for a six. Because like, here am I believing that I'm a failure. And so she's looking at life through that lens. I can't do anything right. I'm a failure. I fail at relationships. I fail at jobs. Like looking through life at the lens of I'm a failure is really, really, really hard work, right? Really hard work. And if you took those glasses off and you look through life like, I can do anything I want. I can choose anything I want. I can be anything I want. Like, wow. That's
You
called
know, it's an
rose-colored
experiment
glasses.
that people can run, you know, really, because how you think is how you perceive.
Totally.
And then when you change the perception, it's that, you know, and for the scientists out there, this is like the reticular activating system, right? I mean, it's like that's your brain is geared to find evidence of what you believe. You
Yes.
know, which is one of the reasons why, since quantum physics came out and we became aware of that, all the other theories have just gone, you know, up in the air. Like all these theories based in Darwin, and we're like, well, all the science we've had so far is inaccurate now. Because we were basing it all on this premise that now we suspect is not true. And so everything is up for grabs. This is what
Yeah.
I love about this, because we're making it all up, people.
Yeah.
We are making the whole thing up. Everybody, even scientists, think that they're, well, I'm doing my research. You're spotting it in the quantum field. You're making it up. You're a
Totally.
conscious creator. You're creating it. That's what you're doing. It is not
You know,
true and like stake in the sand and that's true. No, it's not.
a couple of things brought that to me when I was young. I remember when I was doing some personal growth courses when I was in my early 40s, I think. And one of them said, what if the universe was meaningless and empty? Like
Ooh,
meaning,
that's a yucky thought.
isn't it? Right? What if the universe was meaningless and empty, and everything that is happy, every meaning is the meaning you put on it. Like you're putting meaning into everything. So that actually put me into depression for a little while, because I'm
Yeah, that
thinking,
would.
what's the point of getting up in the morning if the universe is meaningless, if it's all meaningless, right? But if you look at it from the perspective of there's a blank slate and you get to paint on it whatever you like, that's like that you're putting meaning into everything. You're putting meaning into everything. Then also when I was massaging, and I was probably in my late 30s, anyway, at some point, And I started perceiving people's thought forms. I started seeing their past lives. I started to read their thoughts. I knew their biggest fears. I knew their greatest desire. I started like seeing into people, and it was freaking me out. I had no one told me that, you know, no one told me about this stuff, right? And I'm like, what's happening to me? Am I going mad? Funnily enough, I always had this conversation with my guides, and I said, what the hell is going on? Am I making this stuff up? And they said, yes. And I go, okay, so seeing all these past lives and stuff is just my wild imagination. I'm making it all up. I'm just making it up. And they said, yes, you're making it up. And I said, okay. And they said, but just remember, you're making all of it up. You're making up that you're a woman, that you're this age, that you're massaging this person. Like, you're making all of it up. Look at your face.
I know. I'm just feeling that right now. Okay,
that's how I felt when they told me.
But like, here's the thing: is that yes, we're making it all up, but we're making it all up collectively together. We're agreeing together that this is the way life is. We're agreeing.
Yep.
So when I spot something, here's the thing: because as an intuitive, you test your intuition.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know how to believe anything that you're receiving as a message at first, because it's so preposterous compared to our Western thinking. Like, it's preposterous. So you have to test it. Otherwise you can't, you know, your rational mind will never accept it. When you test it and like, I've done this with clients for years now, you say, you know, what are you getting? And then they say, and that's exactly what you were like receiving as well. Or when you tell them, this is, you know, I'm seeing this, or I'm feeling, is this where you're feeling it? That's exactly where they're feeling it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and I try to stay open now. I try to just be open. I'm not going to project anything. I'm just receiving, because I don't want to influence it. I don't want to spot it in the field. You know, I want them to spot it. Okay, but this leads me to another point. We are making it all up, because I've done drum journeys where, you know, a drum journey is where I'm doing the drum and people are meditating. Like, they're taking a visual journey, just in case your audience or the people don't know about this. So they're taking a journey in their mind. They got their eyes closed and they're on a journey. What happens in my journeys when I lead them is that I see a vision. I'm receiving a vision from spirit. I'm seeing it in my mind's eye. As I see it, I'm speaking it. They're already there. They're like, by the time you said it, Carrie, I was already there. Almost like I wouldn't have to even speak it. We're all on the same journey. Like, I'll be like, now you see a mountain before you. Well, that's Asangate in Peru. They're all already on Asangate. Now you see a jaguar, a black jaguar. They've already seen the black jaguar. It's already happened. That trips me out. That doesn't happen for other journey circles, you know, that I've been to anyway.
You're teaching your tribe how to communicate telepathically. And you know what's really interesting?
That's cool.
But you know what's really interesting is that, you know, years ago I read in the Seth books. I just want to honor you. I just want to honor you on your journey, because, you know, like, I've taken 30, 40 years to wake up, and you had this fast track in 6 years. And I've been speaking to people who've had like 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, and everyone's on this fast track. But I had time to play with this stuff and then get on with life, and then come back and play with it, and then get on with life. Like, when you're on the fast track, it's intense.
It is intense.
Anyone that's on the fast track, I just want to honor you. But years ago, I read in the Seth books, he said that we're all communicating telepathically anyway, all the time. The only difference between being deliberate about it, it's just like the awareness of it. But he said, look at the way you drive your cars. You couldn't drive your vehicles if you were not all communicating telepathically. He said it couldn't happen. And then he asked us to think about, when we're in traffic, how we just know sometimes what that car's going to do. And like, I knew that guy was going to get in front of me. And like, we're having this telepathic communication all the time. You sit in the lights and you look at someone, you know, they're looking at you, you know, like, it's just there all the time. But the difference between doing it deliberately or not is the awareness of it. So what you're doing in your drum circles is you're teaching awareness of how we're all communicating telepathically, right? And when you start to tap into that thought, that we're doing it, and you become more aware of it. What you become more aware of, you see more of, right? It just expands. What you focus on expands. So when you focus on your ability to communicate telepathically, or to be intuitive, or to talk to your guides, or whatever you think is impossible or crazy, or even telekinesis or remote viewing, God, I've done all of it, and I didn't know I could do any of it. Like, I remember when 9/11 happened, I just projected my consciousness over there as a healer. I was working as a healer at the time, and said, how can I help? And I just went, I'll go over there and see what I can do. It's like, I didn't even know I could do this. I just did it, because it was like I'm watching it unfold on television, and I'm going, oh my God. And so I kind of went over there, remote viewed, went over there by consciousness. And what I saw were all these angel type souls who were contracted to be of help for all the people that had left their body. And so when you leave your body really quickly, you often don't know you're dead. And then, like a being, like a fireman, for instance, you know how there were lots of firemen that died, would turn up looking like a fireman and say, so you trust them? It's okay, come with me. You know, come with me, it's okay. So these people are out of their body, they don't know they're dead, they're looking at a fireman, they're thinking, I'm safe, they're going with the fireman, and then the fireman explains, you're actually out of your body, but you're safe, come with me, I'll take you home, sort of thing. So that's what I saw, and I didn't actually even know I could do that. I just did it. So we are amazing, all of us. We can do all of it.
We
And the
are.
aware-
And people would say, oh, well, you just had that vision in your mind. But I want to say, that's where you test it. And when you test it, you find out stuff. So I did an astral projection. In school, they taught us how to astral project. Leave our bodies and then bring our energy somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then bring it back. So I had a boyfriend at the time that was in London, and we were in class in Joshua Tree. And so I had a boyfriend in London, and I wanted to visit him. I wanted to go and visit him. So that was my only intention. Like, I was like, okay. So my team was guiding me in the astral projection, and I was like, I didn't even know where he lived, but I'm like, I'm going to his house, his apartment now. And so I astral projected there, and it was weird because I felt like my body was walking, but without my body. Like, it was my energy walking. It was so weird feeling. And then I was like going around his apartment, like looking for him. And then I saw his bedroom. I saw the whole thing, and then I touched him on his, and I like leaned over, and I was like, I'm visiting you in my astral projection. And I kind of told him I might be doing it. So just pay attention, like just be aware. He actually felt me. He felt me touch his shoulder, and he felt me in the room. And then when I described it for him, like what it looked like, he's like, and I'd never been there. He said, that's exactly what it looks like. Now that is proof. That's proof.
Absolutely. 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 It's so cool, isn't it? I remember when I was playing with all this stuff, I was a few years ago anyway, when I was probably in my 40s, I had this Indian boyfriend. It was around 2000, that's right. And he thought he was trying to stay in Australia, and he thought that during the Olympics, because we had the Olympics in 2000, he would leave and go home and see his parents, because Sydney would be crazy with people, right? And he thought that was a good idea. So he said to the immigration department, can I go on a holiday? They said, we'll get back to you. They sent him a letter saying, you're deported. You got 2 weeks to get out of the country.
Oh my
right?
goodness.
I know, he was really pissed off with Australia. But anyway, he went to live in Canada. Anyway, so he went to India, and we were talking to each other on the phone, and he was doing exactly what you were saying. He was saying, you're sitting on the couch, you're wearing this dress, you're looking out the window. And because it was before I had a computer, or no, I think I got a computer around 2000, but it was, we weren't on Skype, right? We were on the phone. And I was like, this is so cool. So I'm having a Skype conversation with him on a normal tenor phone, because he could see where I was. He could see me I'd be like, okay, what room am I in now? And he'd tell me. He'd be in India talking to me on the phone, but in my room seeing me. It was great. It was fantastic. But around that time, I started to do what you asked, like to test this, because I was a bit nervous that I was making it all up. My guides told me I was making it all up. What they meant was, it's not your wild imagination. In fact, your wild imagination is the most important part of your creative tool, because what you imagine, you create. So anything you imagine exists. It's a reality that exists. on another frequency, on another level. Anything you imagine is a reality that exists, and then you bring it into a physical, denser environment. That's how we create. But I had a client who was sick. He had some sort of pneumonia, and I had told him which lobe it was, and he said to me, "No, you're wrong. The doctor says it's because, the lungs have some different lobes." And he said, "No, the doctors." And then he came back for another session, and he said, "Oh, I had an X-ray after our session, and you were right. It was that lobe, and the doctors were wrong." And I'm like, yes, yes. So that was like, tick, did it right. That testing, as you say, you're testing that I'm getting this right, and I'm not just making it up, as you say. But this making it up business, we have to just let ourselves make it up. That's the whole point. We just have to let ourselves make it up and not worry that it's a wild imagination. Just let it be your wild imagination and let that be right. Not say, am
It
I just
can't
making it up?
be, that's not possible. Here's the thing is that Hummingbird, but Hummingbird is my spirit name, and it was a vision given to me by spirit. And my audience has heard that story, so I'm not going to tell it again.
Oh, I haven't. You'll have to tell it on my show. So,
Tell it on your show because your
come
audience
over
doesn't know it. My audience is like, oh God, here goes the story again. So,
to-
so I got this vision of Hummingbird at the end of this meditation, and it came up in the window, and it was like rainbow light, like whoosh. And I didn't make that happen. I'd been making the rest of the meditation happen. So I'm like, wow. I mean, it made me go, wow, I didn't make that happen. That's amazing. It was one of my first mystical visions. So I was like, all right, Hummingbird. I look it up, and it was perfect for my time in life right at that moment. And it was perfect as a guide for me, like an animal spirit guide. I was like, wow, this is me. I am this. I've always had this knack for being very imaginative and believing things are possible, and other people looking at me going, you're crazy. The word "you're crazy," that has been told to me my whole life. So it was interesting because I took on that frequency, and when I took the name on, now that is really interesting because you can notice what has energy. And what is Hummingbird about? It's about anything is possible. It moves from earth to spirit and back, bringing messages. And its message largely is anything is possible. Live in joy. This is a gift. Trust and faith. Everything you need is right around the corner, always, right when you need it. Like, that's what Hummingbird's about. So I've had this journey of pretty magical stuff by taking on that name and taking on that frequency. I want to encourage everybody to think about that, right?
Absolutely. But that's your gift to humanity. That's what you're reminding people of. You know what I mean? I think that as teachers, we can't teach anybody anything. All we can do is remind people of who they are, right? And so as we embody our remembrance and we shine that out to the world, then people get inside that flow, inside our energy field, and they resonate with that, and they go, oh my God, I am that too. And then their thoughts kick in and go, oh, but you're so great and I'm so not. This is what it's like, if you resonate with somebody, anybody, like if you think someone's wonderful, it's because that's who you are.
That's who you are too. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
And then I tell them the opposite, as well. Like, if something really triggers you, that's because you're doing that same stuff. Like, knock it off.
It's really interesting. Any emotional trigger we have. So this is getting back to I've got so many things to say. Getting back to what we were talking about with emotional guidance system. Any emotional trigger we have, like a strong emotional trigger, it's pointing to something within you. So when you really love something, it's pointing to your talents and your gift to the world. And when you really hate something, it's pointing to a belief system that you might have come up on your own, or it might have been imprinted on you by your family or society or religious, upbringing or whatever. It might be imprinted on you, but it's actually pointing inside you. If you don't have an emotional buzz on something that you perceive or you look at or focus on, then it's not within you. But if it's buzzing you either negatively or positively, then you're holding that within you, be it a negative thought form or a belief or the truth of who you are. So it's really amazing. That's our fabulous emotional guidance.
It's a guidance system. I always tell people, if you're triggered by something, and you want to say it's out there, I hate that and I am not that.
Yes,
You're triggered by it, so you are in fact that. And if
totally.
you don't want to be that anymore, go find it, work on it, love it, compassion, heal it. Do use your tools in your toolbox. When you're neutral, then you're done with it. You're not done with it until you're neutral. Just like those relationships, like my ex-husband and I can finally be in the room with him and be neutral. Like I'm fine. It's he's him, I'm me. Is it, that part of my story is done. And it was funny because I was having this moment with my new husband where I was saying, wow, I really feel complete. Like all that's done. I feel so great. And we're coming back up from picking up his kids and we're like, yeah, this is great. Having this wonderful conversation. And he said, well, let's get a pizza on the way home. I said, okay. So I called in the pizza about 30, 40 minutes away. We get to the pizza place. I walk in the door. Right in front of me is my ex-husband. Who does that? And I was like, okay, spirit.
Yeah, yeah.
This is
So
like
how did you feel when you? Well, how did you feel? Like
I laughed. I thought this was the funniest thing because I knew what it was. I knew it. I'm onto the game now. I was like, oh, you want to test me. You want to see if I'm really clear. And I just like looked at him and I was like, God bless you. And I laughed and I was like, hey, how you doing? I'm right behind you. Isn't that crazy? And I'm thinking, I know why. And he doesn't know why, but I know why. And it was great. It was beautiful. It was a total healing. And I was like, yep, I'm neutral. This is fine.
neutral's good, but can you actually love him? Like this
I
is
have
where I take my clients, and they
compassion for him.
compassion for him.
I have
But
compassion for him.
this is where I take my clients, and they find it really hard. And some of them find it too hard and leave. I had someone leave recently because I tried to do this. She was like totally hating her ex-husband. AVOs, he's dangerous, he's an alcoholic. So I'm trying to point her back to her source energy, because here's the thing: we are love. And if we're pretending to be anything less than that, we're not connected to who we really are. And that's the whole
That's so
point of the
true.
game, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the game.
To
So
be honest, I have moments of it, but I'm aware that in this physical reality, it's a good idea to keep a nice boundary there. You know?
well, loving someone doesn't
So
mean you can't have boundaries.
yeah,
This
it's
is
a
what
good
I say to
boundary.
people. Love is non-negotiable. Like, love is non-negotiable. All this BS about I'm in love with you, I'm not in love with you, I love this person, I don't love that person, that's all BS. That's just the human ego playing games, right? Who we are as sources, we are love. There's nothing, we are love. That's all we know how to do. We're love. We're all connected, we're all love. So I say to people, love is non-negotiable. What's negotiable is, do I want to spend time with this person? Do I want to have this person in my life? Do I want to work with this person? Do I want to be, in a relationship with this person? Do I want to live with this person as a flatmate? Like, that's all negotiable, but love is non-negotiable. I love all of you. Love is who I am. But then I can make choices about who I want to play with. And that really frees you up, because you stop dodging people because I don't love you.
Yeah. Well, you just see them, and I've come to this realization, which I think is a big part of awakening, is realizing that we're all the same, we're all source. So,
Yeah.
it's like if I look at you and I say, well, I don't like you. Well, and really some way I'm saying I don't like myself. Like I don't like some aspect of me if
Yep.
I'm saying that.
Yep.
So really it's, we're all one. I have these transcendental crazy, like you said, it's been intense. I was driving
Yeah.
on the freeway once and I slipped over into the next person's car and I saw their hands. I was like, okay. And then I came back over to my car and I was like, that's not a good experiment to run while I'm driving, spirit. Please don't do that again. But it was so intense because then for a moment I was like, somebody's in India and I was seeing their body and their brown skin. And I was like, this is so crazy. So I was flitting around into different people for a few moments while I was driving the car. It's not the right place to do that kind of thing. But it was really interesting because I realized I could easily be anybody. Like I'm this right now, but I could easily be any person on earth. So therefore I can't harbor any resentment for anybody because I could be any one of you. I could be anybody and you could be me, so we are the same.
Have you read any of Richard Bach's books, Bridge Across Forever? Oh, that's a
No.
beautiful book.
Oh, I think I've heard of that though.
Actually, no, the book the book one, in the book one, that's the conclusion. Like, I'm going to do a spoiler alert, but that's the conclusion at the end of the book, is that I am the guy in the car next door driving the car. Like, that is me. You know, and in the book's conversation with God, I love the way that God says to Neil, you know, there's nobody else in the room. It's only you. It's like, you think you're in the room with a room full of strangers, like, that's all you. It's like, there's nobody else in the room. It's all God, and you are God. And look, to the egoic mind, when you read this stuff, right, and when you listen to this stuff, you think, God damn, how could that be? Because our
But I
perception
really
is,
don't like this person and that person.
yeah, our
Because they
perception is
really
that
annoy me.
we're separate. You're male, I'm female. You're this, I'm that. You're of this, I hate that about you. I like this about me. Like, that's the ego mind that separates. Like, that's the ego mind
Separates
that
things. Yeah,
separates.
it does.
Anything that we label, anything that we judge, creates separation. So when we stop labeling and stop judging, we create connection.
Yeah, and don't believe what you think.
Don't believe what you think.
Because your brain is a buggy computer system run by the ego. You know, don't believe it.
You know, unless
It's
it's
able to
not.
create the illusion. You know, it's really able to. I mean, I think the brain itself could be neutral, but I think the ego has learned how to manipulate it, you know. That's just what I've noticed in the whole investigation around my thinking and the crazy thing all this time in my life, is noticing like how even your emotional perceptions, you know, how when energy gets kind of jogged loose through your pores or through your cells or however it's happening, it feels like it's poofing out of your cells to be released, right? Well, that could make you perceive things. It make you have thoughts, make you have actual emotions. You are experiencing it. But the key to consciousness is to be aware. Oh, wait a second. This is like an internal storm. Wait till it clears.
Yeah.
If it's hoocha, it's not true. It's a lie. So wait till it clears and get to the other side where the truth, as sunlight comes back in, the truth, your heart opens, maybe you have tears of joy, tears of gratitude. That then I feel I can trust, because now it's in a different flow. It's in a love flow.
Yeah, totally. I know what's really beautiful to do when you're really in the panic of it all, or in the drama of it all. And this happened to me when I was young, because I think well, pretty much like my daughter, maybe like most young women, I think I was doing lots of drama around relationship. And
Oh,
what
women
that
don't do that at all.
and what that meant about who I am as perceived success or failure, you know, making all my relationships about who I thought I was. Anyway, so I was doing drama. I think my first boyfriend, I broke up with him, and I, like, one of those times where I wanted to kill myself. I was just so devastated. And in this moment of devastation, I had the experience of the witness. So there's me doing the crying, oh my God, no one's ever gonna love me, I'm such a failure, right? And then there's the person watching, going, like, eating the popcorn, watching the movie, going, it's a really good show, you know.
I had that too.
And so I had this experience of being two me's, the person watching the me crying. And so many spiritual teachers have spoken about this, like Eckhart Tolle. He came to his realization when he was going through a time of depression, and he said to himself, I can't stand myself anymore. And then he had this thought, well, who is the me that can't stand the me? Like, he had this realization that there were two me's having this conversation. There was the I that couldn't stand the me, you know. And so there's like cultivating the witness, or the one that watches or enjoys the show. And that's how I live my life today, right? So when I'm in my drama, I love my ego. Like, I love my questioning mind. I love the part of me that wants to know, that doesn't know. Because the source part of me that's watching has access to everything, infinite, omnipresent, infinite, knows everything, right? The part of me that forgets, it's in the Maya, is the ego part of me. And she's the one that creates. She's the one that launches rockets of desires. She's the one that asks the questions. But she doesn't drive the bus anymore. My soul drives the bus and my ego sits in the back seat, but she has equal standing in this life I'm in. but I can witness her and I can enjoy her. Like I can enjoy the drama and I can enjoy the pleasure, because all of it is part of being physically human. And so this is what I say to people, like, don't destroy your ego or resist it in any way. Like, love that part of you that cries, that screams out to the universe, that says, why? That says, I need to know. Like, love that part of you, because she's the one that laughs. She's the personality, or he's the personality. That's the part of you that's having the human experience. And having spoken to so many people on my show that have had near-death experiences, when you listen to their perspective, like when they remember their broader perspective, like who they are beyond their personality, you remember your own. Like you remember that part of you that's watching, the witness, like your higher self, that's sitting in front of the television screen, eating popcorn, watching the drama of your life as it unfolds and enjoying every single minute of it.
I know. Well, it's like the best movie ever, right? I mean, how much money
Yeah.
do we spend going to the movie theater?
Yeah.
And you're living one. You're living
Yeah.
your own movie. Like,
Yeah.
you get to be the director, the
The
producer,
star.
the star,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
screenwriter,
Yeah.
the supporting
Yeah.
cast. You get to decide who they all are.
Yep.
You get to put labels on them and say who they are.
Yeah.
You get to invite in all the characters you want. It's pretty awesome. You're the
It's
environment.
awesome.
You're the house. You're the car. You're everything.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah,
So
so if you
yeah,
don't like it, change it.
living your life through the eyes, seeing your life through the eyes of source, as Esther would say, or living your life through the heart, as someone would say, like there's so many things that teach us the same thing, like being more loving, or seeing your life through your heart, and not seeing your life through your ego mind, or, this thing you said about don't believe what you
Don't
think.
believe what you think. This is my best. I really encourage people to just, because I think in Western culture, we're way too tuned into that way of receiving information, or, a lot of people think it's infallible. Like, oh, my brain, the human brain is the most accomplished thing. No, it's not. It's limited. It's a tool. And it's a faulty tool at that, because it can get viruses really easily that can throw the whole thing off and skew everything.
Yeah, you can
You
get
put one
imprinted.
bad virus of a belief in there and the whole thing gets infected.
But here's the
Oh,
thing, this is our power. And this is our power over all of it. Doesn't matter how many viruses we get, our power to choose, our power to be aware, that can clean up the computer completely. Like,
totally. You go outside the system to the soul, and then all of a sudden you've got a much better navigation system.
yeah, like that's our power to choose, our power to be aware and to make a choice. Like, is this what I want to believe? Is this what I want to believe? Is this true? Is this true? And having that connection to your broader self. Like I just ask them all the time, is this true? Is that true? Tell me about that. Is that true? Is that? I read gossip in the newspaper and I go, is that true? And they're just telling me the whole time. Because remember at the beginning of this conversation, it's like, ask your questions, but be non-attached to to having the answers. So when you're not in the vibration of I need to know, and you're just like, that'd be interesting. Is that true? It's like a different vibration. You're open to the answer. But
You're
when you're in the
curious.
vibration, yeah, when you're in the vibration of the question, it blocks you off from having access to the answers, because the vibration of the question and the vibration of the answer are two different vibrations. They
Well,
don't
that's
align.
especially if you're asking a question, but you've already figured out the answer you want to have. Then you're
How,
really going to screw yourself up.
how do you mean? How do you mean the answer you're going to
well,
have?
well, this is like goal setting, right? Like this is like not goal setting, but manifesting. Like I dreaming this, I'm dreaming this, I'm dreaming this is what I want. This is my partner. Like my list. So I had my list of my partner. Like this is what I want, and I put it in my journal. And then Spirit sent me somebody, and I was like, well, I forgot about this, this, that, and that. Go back to my list, put things on my list. So I had 3 or 4 rounds of dating, and I was like, no, this is not a complete list. And I went back and got this like really complete list of all the things I wanted. And then it was like I was obsessing over that list. Like, did you hear me, Spirit? I said I wanted, and here's my list. And I would go over the list every day, right? Well, I was never letting it go, and I didn't understand that, right? I asked all my teachers, I'm like, you say we're supposed to manifest, and you say we're supposed to have a clear vision of what we want, and then you say we're supposed to let it go. What are you talking about? I either have a clear vision of what I want, or I let it go and I give up, I surrender. Like, I don't understand that. Well, I get it now, is that you set the clear vision, you know what you want, but then you just, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. You go, okay, I'm not concerned with that. And you concern yourself with what is right now, what you have right now. Sooner or later that it happens when you let it go. But I would never let it go. I always held on to it like, gee, you're not listening.
I want to tell you why you hold on to it. That list.
I didn't believe.
No, that list is not about anyone that you want to attract into your life. That list was you.
I had to become the list. I realized at some point I had to become it. Once
It's
I
not
became
about
that list, like I became that person I wanted, he walked in the door.
totally. That
He
is
was
absolutely.
freaking walked right in the door to my firewalk. It was completely unexpected.
But here's what life does, right? When you write the list of what you want in your partner, they're going to show you people, they're going to bring people into your life that are going to clearly and absolutely show you how you are not being that list. That's like, you want this because you don't write a list about that. There is no other outside of us. Remember, conversation with God, there's no one else in the room. Like Richard Bach, we're all one. It's like, you're not writing a list for the other. You're writing the list for you. This is who I want to be. We think we're writing the list for the lover, but we're writing the list for, this is who I want to be in this lifetime list, loving, caring, blah, 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 beautiful,
Yeah, and you'll
whatever,
get
whatever.
opportunities to be loving.
Yeah, rich,
Woo-wee.
handsome, or whatever. And so God says to you, or the life says to you, or the universe says, right, if that's the list that you want, we're going to bring you someone that's going to clearly show you how
We
you're
will
not doing
help
that.
you become
Yeah,
that.
we will help you become that. And then you point at the other and say, he was so jealous and he was so controlling and he was so this and he was so that. And it's like, well, that was you, honey. Like, that was you. That wasn't on your list. Like, clean that up. So partners, spiritual contracts, spiritual partnership is the person that presses your buttons, because those buttons are there to be pressed. So if you're having a relationship with someone that doesn't press your buttons, that's not a spiritual relationship. That's a relationship. That's a convenient relationship. That's a friendship. But the spiritual partnership is the one that presses your buttons, because you've got those buttons there to press. When you're in a relationship with someone, your buttons don't get pressed like they've been pressed, then you've started to really be the list. Like, totally love yourself. I know I sounded like I
Yeah, I
just contradicted myself, but
feel like I'm in that spot right now with my partner, because there's just so much love. There's awareness and love. There's just more of acceptance of it. I think you just get to a place where you just accept. You accept that you're going to be taught everything you need, and that this relationship is actually teaching you everything you need. And so if you're uncomfortable, that's your stuff, you know? And you
yeah,
say, thank you for pointing it out.
yeah,
And, and you don't react, that you don't get reactionary. I think that's the best part about this that I'm in now, is I'm just not reactionary about it now. I still have moments where I have like a little bit of, like I'll get feisty or something will trigger me. And I'll look at him and I'll go, I'm really feisty right now. Like, this is triggering me. I'm super feisty. I need time to sort this out, because if you interact with me right now, you're going to get blasted, But that's honest, And that way, you just know it's your stuff. You just got to know it's you. So
absolutely.
you can be at peace with this whole spirit game if you just learn how to play the rules.
If you know how to play
If
the
you
rules.
learn how to play the game.
Okay, let's talk about the rules. The people who are watching, what do you reckon the rules are? Let's hear your rules.
The rules are, it's not out there, it's in here.
Number one. Number one.
It's for you. It's not a punishment.
It's everything's for you. Mm-hmm. Number two. Yep.
That's number two. Okay, guys, what are the clear rules? You have everything you need.
Ah, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
3.
Yep.
4.
Stay in love. Love is the truth. Everything else is what's keeping you from the truth. Love is the truth. Don't make decisions outside of love. Mm-hmm.
Love is not negotiable. Love is.
Love is the truth. And so
Love
if you're anywhere but love, it's not the truth somehow. You're in some untruth, and it's up to you to figure out how to get back to the alignment. Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing about being outside of love or outside of the truth. It's a really creative process. So I would add that one of the rules is that you are the creator. You are the creator.
And we're making it all up. That's the last one.
We're making it all up. But, you know, how we're creating most of the time is when the proverbial shit hits the fan, then we come up with new ways of doing things or new ways of looking at things or a new you know, like
it spurs creation. Yeah.
It spurs creation. So like when we're in a relationship that's not working and we're even blaming the other for being the problem, it still gives birth in us about who we want to be. And if we don't learn that lesson, we have exactly the same relationship with another person. Yeah. But when we do learn that lesson, we have a different relationship with another person. So there's only me in the room. There's only me. It's just me, and it's just you and me. Like, this is what these books, Conversation with God and the one book, does. It just makes you realize that everything that you're bumping up against is you. Everyone, everything, we're all one. And this is the whole, we're all one. We're a collective consciousness.
Yeah, we are a collective consciousness.
Yeah.
Well, that's super fun. Well, all right. Well, we're back around to the beginning. That was great. We have our rules. I'm going to type those up in the notes so you guys have that.
So let's go over them. Number one was, do you remember? I don't remember. That was good.
I had to go back
over them. To write them down.
Yeah, I need to put them on my monitor and keep it right in front of my face. These are the rules. The guides gave them to you. Pay attention. So, okay, tell us how can people play with you? How can they play with you and move forward more with you?
How can people play with me? Well, there's a few things I do. I'm still doing one-on-one sessions. I've taken January off because I'm putting out a book. When I say me, I'm not putting it out. I'm putting it together. So the book is about surviving death, because what I noticed on my show, Kerry, is that the most amount of hits I got on YouTube were when people were Googling what happens when you die or how do I survive death. So this is a question that a lot of people are asking, right? Why are you laughing?
How do I survive death? You don't die. You're eternal. That's how. This is
exactly. And that's what people are looking for. So that's a very big
topic. A costume. And then we take it off. And then there's the next costume.
Exactly. So what I did was I put 12 stories together from people on my shows in the book of their journeys with death. So 3 of them had near-death experiences. Quite a few of them had children that were murdered, either blown up in the bomb blast, a terrorism thing, or there was one, the Sandy Hook shootings. One, Lisa Medhu's son shot himself, Eric Medhu's. And how these people have gone on to be the most incredible teachers and healers and just exponentially changing life through their blogs and their books, and, you know, how the death experience was such a transformative experience.
So powerful.
So, because that was my experience. Remember you said, tell me your story, which I didn't tell you. But it was like the death of my mother was that initiation into, okay, what the hell am I doing here? Like, really,
that
where
deeper
do we
soul
go?
journey,
that deeper soul journey. Yeah. So such a transformative. So that's what I'm doing January. So I'm not doing clients, and I'm not doing the show this month. I'm just getting that book out. But what we do is I do have the Inner Sanctum. So the Inner Sanctum is a little tribe of people. We have monthly webinars. I do 2 webinars a month. I'll invite you into the Inner Sanctum.
Oh, great.
We have a guest teacher who I invite into the Inner Sanctum, and then we have me. So people get to ask me questions and, you know, pick my brain and ask my guides. But really what I teach is I connect people to their own guides, because I'm no guru. I'm not the teacher. I'm just someone to remind you of who you are. I call my sessions reminders from home. And and then I've got the show, webinars, book series, Inner Sanctum. I don't know. I've got a few things going on.
Lots of ways to play.
And I tell you, as I said to you before we started recording, I want to go over in March to this Conscious Media Festival, because I looked at that and I thought, I would love to do something like that here in Australia, maybe in 2020, like put on a conscious media festival, bringing people who have podcast shows and who are putting their conscious message out through media in some way, through books, through podcasts, through webinars, however they're doing it, like bring them together to help other people who want to do that, but also to bring their wisdom together and play and have this festival. And yeah, I think that would be cool to
Yeah,
do.
Austin's all about festivals and playing. So
Is
I like it
it?
here. Yeah, I like it here. Awesome. Well, you know what? Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm just going to send you off. And everybody, I always close with kisses. So here comes the kisses. You can join me if you like. Love you guys.
It's so cute.
We'll see you next time on Soul Nectar. Bye.